This is going to be going over the hero selector tier list because in the upcoming update, we're going to be having a few hero selectors to work with. This is for returning or current heirs. We have one 5-star hero selector here, and we also have a bunch of 5-star hero tickets, so you're definitely going to want to make sure you use up all of these and see what heroes you get before you use your selector. At least I think these are 5-star hero tickets, because there's one thing here that says these are artifact tickets. I would definitely much prefer that we get artifact tickets instead of hero tickets, but it makes more sense to me that these are hero tickets because of how much powder we're getting. For new players, you don't have this exchange here, so there's no hero selectors, but we do also have the Perfume event, which this is, I think, the veteran shop, because the new player shop tends to have max enhanced gear in here. This is the veteran shop. We can see one selector here. New players, last time we had this event last year, had extra selectors, so I think you should still have like 2 or 3 hero selectors for new players, and then veterans / returners should be getting 2 hero selectors as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the tier list quickly. At the bottom, we have the free units. Do not take these units. As a new player, you'll also get this guy here for free, so don't take him either. Units not available: Saria, Aki, Riza, and Tactical Archetype Kali will not be available because they're too new. It only goes up to Setsuka. So, starting off with S tier, Fene, absolutely insane PvE unit still. As a new player, if you don't have her, she is your first priority. She is pretty much the unit you want to get immediately. Maybe, of course, wait out some of your tickets. You could live without her for a little bit, or if you really want her, just get her anyways. It won't kill you to give her an imprint or something. Just because of how useful she is, she's going to push your progress a lot. And then if you somehow don't have her as a veteran, or I guess returners are potentially likely to not have her depending on how long ago you're coming back from. Absolutely insane unit. Definitely worth picking up. She's a healer / DPS. It doesn't make sense that she does both of those things. Then there's Setsuka. She is pretty much a complete menace. Gives everybody on the team evasion. She's got pretty good solo potential, just because of how much damage she deals when you're missing all of her allies. Then if you hit her, she can just counter you anyways if you give her counter set or riposte. Just good RTA pick, and she has usage in offense on Arena right now as well. For a long period of time, she didn't really have that offense usage, but now she does if you have Lone Crescent Bologna. But she's pretty much the strongest RGB PvP unit, so definitely worth picking up. And then in A tier, we have Rwana. Still, she's never really left this spot in A tier. Her S2 is just such a wide catching, counter mechanic on her S2. Just healing so much with the CR push. She's pretty much mandatory for the Ice Constellation, Aquina, and then in PvP, there's so many units that spam attacks that proc her S2. She has remained good, and I would say pretty much yeah, I think she's your highest priority after these two. Elvira is next. Some of these tierings, honestly, I think can mix a little bit. Rwana might honestly belong up here, but Elvira, her S2 just prevents fighting spirit, and it's very nice to have. I think she's great for Arena and Guild War, just because sometimes there's units with fighting spirit on defense, and you just want to shut them off. And then if you have Lady of the Scales, her mechanic where she has Lady of the Scales gives your front unit a bunch of damage share, and they'll soak up a bunch of damage for you. Then Elvira has a 3-turn immortality. She's one of the units that just takes very good advantage of Lady of the Scales damage share effect. And Scales Elvira plus a DPS runs through so many different teams. They're really, really good to have. And then, of course, her Fighting Spirit Shutoff is just nice whenever you need it. And then Politis. Politis, she has kind of just stuck around even as just sort of a counter pick unit. A bit RNG, but sometimes people will pick teams that are weak to her. They use a non-attack skill, you get a chance to stun them with Crown, debuff them a bit. It's pretty much only RTA at this point, but I think she's still worth having around just because she's stuck around so long. Then we have Mort. Mort, he is free for new players. Yes, he's actually technically free twice because the current event gives you him completely for free. And then you have the episode 3 selector. I guess in case somebody is like watching this way in the future and you don't have the milestone event. But Mort is really, really good. His S2 completely shuts off counterattacks, so it shuts off both. So if you have Setsuka on your team, he'll shut off her counterattacks too. The only person allowed to counterattack on the field is him, which is a pretty fun mechanic. I always like the ones that sort of shut it off for both teams instead of just one side. And he has really good synergy with Young Senya. That's one of the reasons they're handing him out for free in the event. So as a new player, you'll be getting Mort plus Young Senya. This is really only for like returners, because I'm pretty sure only new players are getting the free limiteds plus Mort. Returners, if you don't have Mort, pick them up. Then we have the B tier. I don't think all of these units necessarily belong on the same tier, but I didn't feel like splitting it up into two. So Yoha, her damage reflect is really nice in certain situations. Just some units are forced to hit her because they're AoE units, and then the damage reflect can deal with them pretty nicely. Her S3 reset can give her solo potential in certain cases with her EE, or of course you could go to the EE that makes her S2 reflect more. Pretty much just a nice knight to have, I think. And she's usable in Guild War and also in RTA in some spots. Helena, counterpick unit for RTA, she's just an anti-cleave. Her usability kind of fluctuates up and down depending on what the current meta cleaves are. She has typically had, I won't really say a good matchup, but an okay matchup into Briar Witch Saria, and that's one of the reasons you'll pretty much always see Elena sticking around. And Briar Witch Saria being somewhat the strongest cleave right now. Potentially with some other units coming out, like we'll see how she is with Perfume or Biblis, might make her a little bit better. She is definitely has potential to move up. But just a nice anti-cleave, and I think nice to have a copy of her just because she's another one of those units that kind of just sticks around. Rand, with his most recent buffs, has become a pretty solid opener again. Really, really high base speed, so it's nice to contest things with him. Though Renok also exists, but some people do pre-ban her. He's hard to gear because you don't really want like your top speed set on him in most cases, but also just another nice like fast opener to have a set of gear on. Celine, another anti non-attack skill unit like Politis, but she's more DPS focused. She does force people to sort of reveal her because she has a bunch of stealth everywhere in her kit, and she does pretty solid damage, but she has some issues fighting some of the meta units. Some of them are just kind of too tanky, or have a bunch of like passives that just like give them some sort of more like special mitigation instead of just like the usual damage share and damage mitigation. And also there's like a bunch of revivers right now, so she does kind of struggle with that a bit. There's also Genua, who works really well with Sea Phantom Paulus, but he is also not doing super hot. Still a solid DPS to have, I think. Crow, I think this is like where it starts kind of like trailing off into the less used units. Crow is kind of like a Guild War Knight. I think if you have him, he's nice to have, and yeah, he's just an okay Guild War Knight, I think. Abigail, her S2 Immortality passive is nice to use. With Lady of the Scales, I think there's a lot less usage for Abigail these days, because why not just use Lady of the Scales? But Abigail's still used in some spots, and if you don't have Lady of the Scales, you might find yourself using Abigail a little bit more. I think she's mainly a Guild War unit and nice to use. Chenille, not used too much. His usage is inherently going to fluctuate based on what Venom units are in meta. And he also doesn't necessarily become good if a Venom unit is being used. It has to be like a Venom unit that he actually can do something into, because like I'm actually not exactly sure with Perfume or Biblis coming up. She does detonate the Venoms, but detonate is the final action. I'm pretty sure he gets the chance to cleanse before the Venoms go off. But even then, he's not necessarily going to be good into her because she has like the death break on her S1. It's kind of a stuff, but he was here for DDR, and I think you might as well just like, if you're running down a list of units to take up with your selector, nice to sit on a copy of him just in case. And he has some mild usage in Rift right now as well. So speaking of Rift, let's take a look at the PvE tier. These are all like various units that you might want to pick up at some point, and they have varying usages, which I'll talk about. So Charles is, I have him at the top just because he's like kind of a mandatory unit. Trial of the Constellation Aquina, I think if you don't have Charles, is way more annoying to clear than if you have him for whatever reason. He just kind of trivializes the thing. It's him and Rowana, these two just obliterate the content. So pick up Charles. Fenris, really, really good PvE DPS. I think he's honestly like the second best PvE DPS after Fene. He's good in Ice Expedition, Light Expedition. He's also good in Trial of the Constellation Aquina. He's pretty much just a really, really nice unit for PvE, and his PvP usage, despite how much they've tried, has not really worked out. Fallen Season, I think his value goes down a little bit because expeditions are only here half the time now, but I still do think it's valuable to one-shot your expeditions because it's like your primary source of mod gems. Maybe you could say that because expeditions aren't here for as long, you might actually like want to definitely make sure that you can one-shot your own expeditions. Fallen Season helps a ton with that. He's just an insanely good debuffer for Earth Expedition. Cecilia is the front slot knight for Earth Expedition. She helps a ton with your one-shotting consistency. And then she also pops up pretty frequently in Hall of Trials, which also does sadly come around a lot less than it used to, but she covers like 2 out of the 4 rotations, which is really, really nice. A little bit PvE DPS, her S2 into S3 is a pretty big nuke, full def pen, so you can kill some things a lot easier. Wukong, he is pretty much, if you don't have Freerin, he's the next best PvE DPS for Rift. His S3 is also just a really, really big nuke, which makes him show up here and there in other like random PvE places. Nothing like super consistent, just worth mentioning. His S3 does a boatload of damage. But yeah, he's the second best Rift DPS. So him and Schneel, and then Senya is the third one, pretty much. She's only really used for Rift, and it's not necessarily like, it's hard to say that it's worth picking up all 3 of these just to do Rift, but I figure I'd put her here and just mention her anyways. She's a really good frontline unit for Rift. Filtered, Speed Imprint, there's not too much to say about it. If you like have all of like the units that you want, Filtered, picking up Speed Imprints isn't really going to be bad. And then Knockle I have here just because we have Painter Knockle coming up next. So if you really believe in Painter Knockle, then you can start getting some imprints for her now. So that's pretty much it for the hero selector, and we'll see how many we get because we don't necessarily know like the full extent of the perfume shop, but hopefully this helped anybody who needs it.